G'day Bomber fans, I had another video planned and recorded, but the news we all didn't want to hear has come through this morning. Brendan Zerk-Thatcher has requested a trade to Port Adelaide, rejecting a 3-year contract we had on offer for him. It is very disappointing. He has been improving in the last few seasons. So let's talk about what this means for us and the possible incoming players now, and whether or not there is a chance BZT stays. So let's get into it. Actually, before we start, I'm sure quite a few of you are familiar with the legends over at Absolutely Essendon. They have recently hit 1,000 subscribers, epic news, but also there may or may not be a cheeky collaboration or two in the works in the near future, so watch out for that. Alrighty, now BZT, a bit about him. He looked a mess early in his career, or a mess is a bit harsh, but he didn't look the goods, but in around 2022 he really started to feel himself and become a first team player in our backline, a really tall key defensive prospect. And in 2023, the most recent season, he played every game he was available for. Now, I should say he isn't a star back. He is a good interceptor. He reads the ball well. He has some great efforts, but there were those Hawkins and Hogan's games where he had 8 and 9 kicked on him. Port would love that. Those games lower his value quite a lot, I reckon. And that's an important thing, value. We have spoken a lot about Mackay and Gresham, free agents who can request a move and go freely. Brendan Zerk-Thatcher is out of contract, and he does not meet the criteria to become a free agent. This means a trade would have to be worked out upon between us and Port Adelaide. Think back to when Dunkley requested a trade to us but couldn't get a deal done. It's the same theory as that, and this makes me think the saga is not even close to being done. We are an impossible team to deal with. Dodoro plays hardball harder than anyone. This could be one that goes late into the trade period, especially with all the Port players coming in. Port already have Asava Radaglia requesting a trade, another key defender who is frankly better than BZT. They could well have Brodie Grundy do the same. If this is the case, it means Brendan Zerk-Thatcher is their third priority, and that does not play into his hands at all. It is going to be a nuts off-season for Port Adelaide. They have 3 trades for 3 non-free agents to work out. There is every chance this falls through, and you may ask why that is. Well, it's because they only have 4 draft picks right now, and not a single one of them comes after before pick 35. They are going to have to offload players or do some serious dealing if they want Radaglia, Grundy, and BZT, even just Radaglia and BZT. I've seen some say we are going to ask for a top 20 pick, and there is no doubt the Cats will do the same. And remember, you can't go into the draft without any picks. They still need to select a player. I can tell it's going to be a really messy situation. Some would ask what happens if BZT refuses to sign with us and a deal isn't struck with Port. That would essentially send him to the draft. This is a last resort. He would have to absolutely hate the club for this to unfold, which he doesn't. It was a hard decision. He weighed up all year, it seems. And once you go to the rookie draft or late in the national, you could be picked up by anyone. West Coast could grab him and send him further away from home, so he does not want that. It is beyond rare to see this happen. I think this brings the Adelaide Crows into the mix a bit. BZT requested a trade to Port, but realistically you would think someone who wants to move back home would be content in a backup with Adelaide in the heart of the city. Adelaide aren't doing much business as well, so this would be their main priority. They have 3 picks before Port's first selection, 9, 20 and 23. It's not a top heavy SA draft, so you would think they wouldn't mind a few later picks in return. I see more room for a trade to be figured out with Adelaide than I do Port. I really wouldn't be surprised if Port and Essendon just end talks because it's too tough, and Adelaide come in and tempt Brandon with a move there. And that's not to say we don't want a deal done. We do want to see players move if they want. We are not going to keep him if he doesn't want to be there. Brad Scott has said that himself. We are not about building a culture on retaining players against their will, but we do need a deal to be worked out, and with Port, I just don't see how picks 37 and 43 are fair for BZT, especially because one of those will undoubtedly be used to get Radaglia. We can't just let him go for less than he is worth, so there is genuinely every chance he stays with us and waits out till free agency when he can move away on his own terms. And some will talk about future picks. Again, it's a lot to get done, especially when you look at that young SA group in the 2024 draft. I think Port are either way going to end up completely ruining one draft hand, whether it be this one or next. It's all well and good to say use future picks to trade a bunch of players, but really you need a solid hand already if you want dealing done. Now you might say, why not trade him now while we can at least get something back, a pick or two, even if it's in the late 60s, it would be more than we get when he moves in the free agency period, next year or the year after? Well, first off, there are plenty of players who request trades only to stay with their club the next year if a trade falls through. Redmond, for example, he said he would have been a goner if he was a free agent in 2022, but he's just signed a long-year deal with us in 2023. And also, we do get compensation in 2024 if he is to leave as a free agent, BZT that is. That compo is decided by the AFL. It's what they deem to be fair, so really, working out a deal that we see as fair is in Port's best interest more so than ours. So let's say a deal is struck. What does this mean for our team? Can we survive without Brandon Zerk-Thatcher? And the answer is pretty simple. I would say no. Many would point to those Hawkins and Hogan games, but think about who could have replaced him there. Ridley and Laverty are second and third key backs. They cannot play on the biggest, tallest forwards and have their usual impact. Stewart is gone. Zach Reed, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with him. Lewis Hayes is too skinny as a 19-year-old. Baldwin is too small. If we were to play against Jeremy Cameron and Charlie Curnow without BZT, we would get demolished. So really, now more than ever, we need to go for hard for a key back. So let's quickly look at some of the available ones. Ben Mackay, this is the most obvious one for me. Roughly the same age as BZT, played much more senior footy and much better at footy, no offense. I have said earlier in the year Mackay would push BZT out of the first team. So if we get him through the doors, it's a win in my eyes, especially because he is a free agent. Sydney are interested, Hawthorn too. We would probably need to offer him a sizable contract. Dougal Howard wants to move away from St Kilda. He is not in their first team. Decent enough player, serviceable. This is a plan B in my eyes. I'm fairly sure he came from Port to the Saints on a big contract though, so I wouldn't be comfortable seeing him paid too much. Adam Tomlinson, he is leaving Melbourne. This is a plan C. I don't really think he fits our team style that much. This would be a move that lowers the quality. No offense to him. I just think he isn't the right fit for our backline. We need impactful key backs that lock down their forwards plus impact other contests, and Tomlinson isn't that type of player. But that is that. Thank you for watching, and also guys, don't hate on BZT for wanting to return home. The guy just wants to be around his family. He's served us well over the years. Thank him rather than hate him. But that is all. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans.